She was born around 1122, and the truth is, she had very few chances to mark history herself, and yet, not only did she become queen of one of the European realms, she became queen of two of them, France and England. In this video, I'm discussing with you the incredible fate of Eleanor of Aquitaine. I'm busting myths around her bad reputation as an unfaithful wife or even bad wife, and I'm definitely discussing the fact that she could be named the ultimate femme fatale. Eleanor of Aquitaine is a force to be reckoned with, has a story in herself to tell you that is absolutely empowering and fascinating. We don't really know what she looked like, but we know that she was beautiful, and we know that people were very attracted to her. But Eleanor was more than a pretty face. Daughter of William X, Duke of Aquitaine, and granddaughter of the troubadour and crusader William IX, Duke of Aquitaine, Eleanor became an orphan at the age of 13, and she was put in charge of one of the most powerful territories in mainland Europe, Aquitaine. Aquitaine was larger than the duchies of Normandy and Anjou combined, stretching from Anjou to the county of Toulouse. Officially it was under French rule, but in practice no French king dared to control the duchy. The language, Occitan, the culture, the customs and traditions were all very different from the French living near Paris. Eleanor knew this and capitalized on her new position and consolidated the importance of a duchy. Aquitaine was a powerful territory, and they had a teenager at its helm. A teenager who would soon realize her true strength, her true value, and who will not be afraid to show how great and powerful she could be. She was married to Prince Louis of France, and he became King of France. And at first he was completely smitten with her, completely in love with her probably, because she was so charming. It's what we have in the chronicles. We have these beautiful young woman who was also so very smart and politically astute. And Louise was completely drawn to her, but unfortunately that marriage proved to be very unhappy and unsuccessful. Louis went on a crusade, it's called the Second Crusade, and he took Eleanor with him. Unfortunately, that crusade was a complete disaster for himself, for France, but also for his marriage. The truth is, they were blaming Eleanor for bringing too many luggages and items, that it meant that the army had to be divided, and so they blamed the whole disaster and failure of their battles on the woman. She was so hurt that she wanted to spend time instead with her uncle Raymond of Poitiers. And here we had rumors of her being unfaithful and having sexual relationships with Raymond. I have to say there is actually no truth to that, and it was probably rumors just to attack her personality but also her charisma. Eleanor was becoming more powerful every day, and her position as Duchess of Aquitaine meant that she was, her own free woman, something that was unthinkable in the 12th century. The marriage was a disaster. Eleanor brought up the fact that there might have been a bit of consanguinity, which means that she was blood related to Louis, and they tried to appeal to Pope Eugene III for an annulment. Usually that reason would work for an annulment, but Pope Eugene III really wanted to make this marriage work, and he kind of forced them to share a bed, and they had a second daughter, Alix of France. This was a disaster for Louis, who really desperately needed a son. The relationship just completely crumbled and was completely undermined, and eventually in March 1152 Pope Eugene III is going to agree to give them an annulment. But on her way back to Aquitaine, where she was still the Duchess, Eleanor was in danger. People tried to kidnap her, to force her to marry. So when she came back to Aquitaine, she tried to enjoy her freedom as a single woman ruling on her own, one of the most important and powerful territories of Europe. But she soon realized that if she didn't choose her husband herself, she would always be in fear of being forced to marry someone else. She chose Henry of Anjou, who was going to become Henry II of England. At first, again, they're very happy. They're the couple of Europe, if you see what I mean. They have everything to be happy together. They're gonna have 8 children together, so obviously everything is working well. But soon there's gonna be some problems. Henry is gonna be unfaithful, have mistresses, and I think he was very much trying to control Eleanor of Aquitaine and her duchy. And Eleanor had kind of grown into the role of a political woman, of a political figure. And as I said before, she was her own free woman. She was extremely determined, she was extremely empowered and powerful, and she was her own free spirit. That marriage didn't end well either. And together they were gonna have, you know, as I said, 8 children. One of them is John, King of England, and obviously Richard the Lionheart. Eleanor is going to decide to go back to Aquitaine and rule Aquitaine because her marriage is a disaster. But when her sons are going to be unhappy with her father and rebel, she's going to join them. Some people have wondered why she would do something like that. Some theories is about the fact that she didn't like the fact that the Duchy of Aquitaine was so much under English policies, and I think you have to remember she was a mother and that if her relationship with her husband wasn't good, which it wasn't, it's not too difficult to understand why she would choose her son's side over her husband that she can't stand. She was imprisoned for 16 years by her husband until his death, and it is something that obviously really impacted her. But Eleanor died on the 1st April 1204, so in her early 80s. She had a big life. She even led an army at 70 years old to help her son. And what I'm trying to tell you is that that woman had a very colorful life. She was a force to be reckoned with. She gave birth 10 times. I mean, wow. And she was also, you know, from the Duchy of Aquitaine, which obviously is a powerful duchy. But at the same time, I want you to remember she was not born to be queen, and she was not born to rule, you know, these big countries like France and England. She was born to rule Aquitaine. I really believe that, unless she had, you know, a brother. But I want you to imagine this incredible fate. 2 marriages, they're both failures. They didn't work. But also her relationship with her sons, and also the complicated history and story of her life, and how colorful and powerful it is. And I'm going to put down below some great books for you to read about her and her life. And there's also Katherine Pangonis, who worked on the Queens of Jerusalem, and she talks about Eleanor there. And I think it's quite also important to realize that kind of, you know, the fact that she traveled, and it's not, you know, it's not that uncommon. It is also quite impressive, especially for medieval women. Eleanor of Aquitaine is a really remarkable Queen of France, Queen of England, Duchess of Aquitaine, and she deserves more than her bad reputation. I think that in the chronicles, and you know, that were written after her life and even during her life, there's this idea of bringing down a woman who was her own free spirit. And I really hope that in this video we have kind of regained a bit more on who she truly was and how her life was so interesting and incredible. And yes, she probably was the ultimate femme fatale. She got, you know, many men wrote about her beauty, but also her skills and her intelligence. And I think they feared her for that. And I think that's why her marriages failed. She was not a typical obedient, quiet medieval wife, and I love that about her. Absolutely do. I really hope that you enjoyed this Once Upon a Woman video on Eleanor of Aquitaine. If you have questions, leave them down below and I'll reply to them. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.